South of Japan, between Tokyo, Guam, and the Philippines, there is a stretch of the Pacific that Japanese sailors had been avoiding for centuries. They called it Ma no Umi, the Devil's Sea. It covers roughly the same area as the Bermuda Triangle, about 1 million square kilometers of open Pacific, marked by no single coastline, no reef system, no obvious hazard. From the surface, it looks like every other part of the ocean. Blue, vast, indifferent. But Japanese mariners had been filing reports about this region since at least the 13th century. Ships that went silent, crews that never returned, vessels found adrift with no explanation for what had happened aboard. By the early 1950s, those reports had accumulated into something the Japanese government could no longer ignore. Multiple ships had vanished in the same general area within just a few years. In 1952, the government decided to act. They would send a research vessel into the Devil's Sea to study the region scientifically, to map currents, measure volcanic activity, collect data. The ship they chose was the Kaio No. 5. It carried a crew of 31. The Kaio Maru No. 5 was not a merchant vessel or a fishing boat. It was a dedicated scientific research ship dispatched by the Japanese Maritime Safety Agency. Its 31 crew members were trained professionals, oceanographers, cartographers, meteorologists, people who understood the sea in technical terms. Their mission was straightforward: go into the region where ships had been disappearing, collect data, and come back with answers. The irony would not become clear until it was already too late. Japan's answer to the Devil's Sea was to send experts into it. Those experts would become the Devil's Sea's most consequential victims. Before the Kaio Maru No. 5 set out, the government had already documented the loss of at least 5 vessels in the region between 1950 and 1952. Some of them fishing boats, some of them cargo ships. None of them recovered. The research team would have known this. They had, in all likelihood, reviewed those same case files. They went anyway. That was their job. The Kaio Maru No. 5 entered the Devil's Sea in 1952 and was never seen again. All 31 crew members vanished with it. No distress call, no wreckage field, no life rafts, no bodies. The Japanese government launched a search. The search found nothing. What made this disappearance different from the others was not simply the loss of life, it was the loss of the people who had been sent specifically to explain the losses. The scientists went to study the mystery. The mystery took them. In response, the Japanese government did something unusual. In 1954, they formally designated the Devil's Sea as a danger zone, an official government classification acknowledging that an area of open ocean posed unacceptable risks to navigation. That designation made Japan one of the very few countries in the world to officially recognize a geographic region of the Pacific as anomalously lethal. But the classification solved nothing. It explained nothing. It simply drew a boundary around the silence and said, "This is where things disappear." The wreck of the Kaio Maru No. 5 has never been located. The cause of its loss has never been determined. Scientists and geologists have proposed several natural explanations for the concentration of losses in this region, and unlike many maritime mysteries, some of those explanations carry genuine weight. The Devil's Sea sits along one of the most volcanically active zones in the Pacific. The ocean floor beneath it is fractured by the Izu Bonin Trench, which runs to depths exceeding 9 kilometers. Underwater volcanic eruptions in this zone are not rare. They can release massive columns of heated water and gas with almost no surface warning. Methane hydrate deposits on the seafloor may destabilize under the right conditions, releasing large volumes of gas that can reduce water density dramatically. A ship caught above such a release can lose buoyancy and sink within seconds, before any distress signal can be sent. The currents in this region are notoriously unpredictable. The Kuroshio Current, the Pacific's equivalent of the Gulf Stream, runs through this zone, and its interaction with local tidal patterns can produce sea states that overwhelm vessels with no apparent meteorological cause. Each of these explanations accounts for part of what has been reported here. None of them fully accounts for all of it. And none of them explains why the Kayo Maru No. 5, equipped with scientific instrumentation designed to detect exactly these kinds of hazards, never sent a single warning. In 1989, author Charles Berlitz, who had already made the Bermuda Triangle famous, published a book called The Dragon's Triangle, applying the same framework to the Devil's Sea. Berlitz claimed that dozens of ships and hundreds of lives had been lost in the region, and that the pattern defied natural explanation. Critics pushed back hard. Researcher Larry Couchet, who had already systematically dismantled many Bermuda Triangle claims in his 1975 book, argued that Berlitz had inflated the loss statistics, misidentified locations, and blurred the dates to make the pattern look more concentrated than it actually was. Couchet's critique was specific. When you go back to the actual records, the maritime safety reports, the Lloyd's casualty returns, the Coast Guard files, the number of genuinely unexplained losses in the Devil's Sea is significantly smaller than Berlitz claimed. But the Kayo Maru No. 5 is not a disputed case. 31 people, a government research vessel, a formal search that found nothing. That case stands on its own. And the Japanese government's 1954 danger zone designation, a bureaucratic act based on documented losses, not folklore, stands on its own as well. The Devil's Sea may be smaller than its legend, but its legend was built on something real. The question that the Devil's Sea leaves open is not whether ships have been lost there. Ships have been lost there. The Japanese government confirmed it. The question is whether those losses represent a genuine geographic anomaly, a region where specific combinations of volcanic activity, methane release, unpredictable currents, and seismic instability produce conditions that are measurably more dangerous than surrounding waters, or whether the pattern is a statistical illusion, a cluster of unrelated events that have been grouped together by geography and reinforced by centuries of fear. The honest answer is that no one has definitively proven either case. The seafloor beneath the Devil's Sea has not been comprehensively mapped. The volcanic systems beneath it have not been fully cataloged. The interaction between methane hydrate fields and deep water currents in this zone is still being studied. What is known is this. The Kayo Maru No. 5 was sent into the Devil's Sea with 31 crew members and the full resources of the Japanese government behind it. It never came back. The scientists found no answers. They became the answer. The single most documented, government-confirmed loss in the history of the Dragon's Triangle. And the sea kept its silence. The Japanese government had drawn a boundary around a region of open ocean and said, "Ships disappear here." But the Devil's Sea had at least offered natural candidates: volcanic vents, methane fields, treacherous currents. The next case would offer nothing. No weather event, no hazard. A yacht found floating in perfect condition in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle, with no one aboard and no explanation at all. September 1955. The Atlantic Ocean, approximately 640 kilometers southwest of Bermuda. A passing vessel spotted a yacht drifting with no one at the helm. The yacht was called Connemara 4. It was a luxury sailing vessel, well-built, well-maintained, the kind of boat that belonged to someone with money and experience on the water. When investigators boarded it, they found no signs of struggle, no blood, no broken equipment. The sails had been properly furled. This was not a vessel that had been overwhelmed by a sudden storm. Someone had taken the time to bring the sails in before leaving. Personal belongings were still aboard: clothing in the cabins, charts on the nav table, the kinds of objects that people take with them when they leave a boat deliberately and leave behind when they leave in a panic. The life raft was missing. That was the only clear indication that anyone had departed the vessel at all. But no life raft was ever found, and no person connected to the Connemara IV was ever seen again. The investigation that followed could not establish even the most basic facts about the Connemara 4. Investigators could not confirm with certainty how many people had been aboard when the yacht departed its last known port. They could not confirm exactly when it had departed. The ownership records produced conflicting information. Different sources gave different names for the vessel's registered owner. Some accounts described a crew of several people. Others suggested the yacht had been sailing with a skeleton crew, or perhaps even solo. This was not a case of a mystery built on extensive evidence. This was a case where the evidence itself was absent, not just on the water, but in the records that should have existed before the yacht ever left port. A vessel found adrift in the Bermuda Triangle with its sails furled and its crew gone is already unusual. A vessel for which investigators cannot even reliably establish who was aboard or where it was going is something else entirely. The Connemara 4 was not just a mystery. It was a mystery that had erased its own context. The year 1955 produced one of the strangest coincidences in maritime history. In October of that year, in the South Pacific, the MV Joyita was found adrift near Western Samoa. Sails down, crew of 25 gone, a doctor's bag open on the deck with bloody bandages inside. In September of that same year, in the Atlantic, the Connemara 4 was found drifting in the Bermuda Triangle. Sails furled, crew gone, no trace of what had happened. Two different oceans, two different vessel types, two completely different circumstances. But the same year, and the same essential fact: a boat that should have had people on it, found completely empty. The Joyita at least left behind a broken radio cable, a makeshift awning on the deck, and those bloody bandages. Physical evidence that something had happened aboard, even if investigators couldn't say what. The Connemara IV left behind almost nothing. No distress signal had been received. No nearby vessel reported seeing anyone in the water. No life raft was ever recovered. The yacht simply ceased to have a crew. At some point between its departure and its discovery, everyone aboard it vanished. September 1955 was not a calm month in the Atlantic. Hurricane Janet, one of the most powerful hurricanes of the 1950s, swept through the Caribbean and the Western Atlantic during that same period. Janet made landfall in Grenada on September 22nd, killing over 500 people. It destroyed the town of Chetumal in Mexico. It was, by any measure, a catastrophic storm. The Connemara 4 was found drifting approximately 1 week after Janet had passed through the region. The timing is significant. A yacht caught in the outer bands of a major hurricane, or in the chaotic sea state that follows such a storm, could easily lose its crew to a sudden wave, a knockdown, or a desperate abandonment. But the physical condition of the yacht argued against a violent storm encounter. The sails were furled cleanly. The personal belongings were undisturbed. The vessel itself showed no storm damage. Therefore, the hurricane theory explained the timing, but not the evidence. A storm bad enough to force an abandonment should have left the yacht in worse condition. This one had not. The U.S. Coast Guard conducted a formal search and inquiry into the Connemara 4. They found the yacht. They could not find the crew. They could not establish the crew's identities with certainty. They could not confirm the vessel's last port of departure or its intended destination. The case was officially closed without a finding of cause. What makes the Connemara 4 linger in the record is not just the absence of the crew, it is the absence of almost everything else. Most maritime mysteries leave behind questions. This one left behind questions about the questions. Who was aboard? How many people? Where were they going? Did they depart voluntarily into the life raft and then get lost? Were they swept overboard one by one? Did something happen that caused a rapid, controlled abandonment? And then that controlled abandonment went wrong? None of these questions have been answered. Some of them have not even been asked with confidence because the foundational record was never clear. The Connemara 4 was floating in perfect condition when it was found. It is still floating in the record, pristine, crewless, and completely unexplained. 1955 was a strange year on the water, and it was not finished yet. The Connemara 4 had drifted for days through open ocean, leaving no trace of what had happened to the people aboard it. The sea had closed over them completely. But the next mystery would unfold on land, on a small island off the coast of Nova Scotia, in a hole in the ground that has consumed 6 lives, millions of dollars, and 2.25 centuries of effort without surrendering a single definitive answer. Oak Island is a small, heavily wooded island off the south shore of Nova Scotia, Canada. It is roughly 57 hectares, about the size of a large farm. It sits in Mahone Bay, connected to the mainland by a causeway that didn't exist in 1795. In the summer of that year, 3 teenage boys, Daniel McGinnis, John Smith, and Anthony Vaughn, were exploring the island when McGinnis noticed something unusual in the ground beneath a large oak tree. The earth had settled in a circular depression, a clear sign that something had been dug there and filled back in. Marks on the overhead branch of the oak tree suggested that a pulley system had once been rigged there, the kind of mechanism used to lower heavy objects into a shaft. The boys started digging. 2 feet down, they hit a layer of flagstones, flat rocks that did not belong in the natural soil of this part of Nova Scotia. Below the flagstones, the shaft continued. They kept digging. What they had found would consume the next 229 years of human effort and still refused to give up its secret. The 3 boys dug as far as they could, roughly 3 meters, before they had to stop. The shaft was too deep for 3 teenagers with hand tools. They came back years later as adults with more men and proper equipment. The Onslow Company, formed in 1803, took over the excavation. What they found as they dug deeper was not natural earth. Every 3 meters, with almost mechanical regularity, they encountered a layer of oak logs sealing the shaft. 10 meters down, more logs, plus a layer of charcoal.
15 meters, logs again, this time with a layer of ship's putty beneath them.
20 meters, another oak platform, and beneath it, a layer of coconut fiber. Coconut fiber. On an island in Nova Scotia where coconuts do not grow and never have. The material had to have been brought there, from somewhere in the tropics, hundreds of miles south. Someone had gone to significant effort and expense to line a shaft in the North Atlantic with tropical plant material. At approximately 27 meters, one of the diggers reported striking something hard, possibly a wooden chest. The next morning, the pit had flooded with seawater. The workers were standing in over 10 meters of water. The shaft had been booby-trapped. The flooding was not accidental. Subsequent investigation revealed that a system of man-made tunnels connected the money pit to the ocean at Smith's Cove, roughly 150 meters away. At Smith's Cove, workers discovered a structure of flat stones arranged in a fan shape at the waterline, covered by layers of eelgrass and coconut fiber, a sophisticated filtration system designed to let seawater flow in, while preventing the filter material from washing away. 5 separate drainage channels led from this beachwork system underground, converging into a single tunnel that ran to the money pit shaft. Whoever had built this pit had not simply buried something deep in the ground. They had engineered a hydraulic flood trap, a mechanism that would automatically fill the shaft with seawater the moment anyone dug past a certain depth. This level of engineering was not crude. It required knowledge of tidal hydraulics, careful surveying, and significant labor over an extended period. The question was not just what was at the bottom of the pit. The question was, who built this, and why did they need the contents of that pit to be this unreachable? Something down there was worth extraordinary lengths to protect. Since 1803, digging at Oak Island has never really stopped. The Trudeau Company tried in 1849. They drilled through the bottom of the flooded pit and reported pulling up pieces of gold chain from the drill bit, a claim that has never been fully verified or fully dismissed. They also retrieved pieces of what appeared to be parchment with writing on it. The parchment was too damaged to read completely. The Halifax Company tried in the 1860s. They flooded the pit again. Franklin Roosevelt visited Oak Island as a young man in 1909 and invested money in a dig operation. he remained interested in the island for the rest of his life. Over the following century, machinery replaced hand tools. Cofferdams were built. New shafts were sunk. Ground-penetrating radar was deployed. 6 people have died in excavation accidents on Oak Island over the years, one of them from a gas explosion, others from flooded shafts and equipment failures. By 2006, the History Channel series The Curse of Oak Island had turned the island into one of the most watched ongoing archaeological television programs in the world. As of the most recent excavation season, the deepest confirmed digging on Oak Island has passed 60 meters. The pit has still not surrendered what, if anything, lies at its bottom. The theories about what is buried in the money pit cover an extraordinary range. The pirate treasure theory is the oldest and most straightforward. Captain Kidd, Blackbeard, or one of their contemporaries buried captured wealth here, protected by the flood trap, intending to return. The Freemason or Knights Templar theory holds that the treasure is not monetary, but sacred. Documents, relics, or artifacts connected to the dissolution of the Templar Order in the 14th century, transported to the New World for safekeeping. The Shakespeare theory, advanced by several literary researchers, proposes that the original manuscripts of Shakespeare's plays, believed by some to have been written by Francis Bacon, were sealed in the pit to prove or protect their authorship. The French crown jewels theory points to the timing. The pit may have been constructed in the late 1700s, around the time of the French Revolution, by loyalists attempting to hide the Bourbon treasury from the revolutionary government. Some researchers have proposed that the pit is entirely natural, a limestone sinkhole or karst formation that mimics the appearance of an engineered shaft. But the coconut fiber is not natural to Nova Scotia. The flagstones are not natural to that soil layer. Therefore, someone built something here. What they built it for remains the only question that matters, and the one that has never been answered. The only thing confirmed about Oak Island's money pit after 229 years of investigation is this: someone, at some point, went to enormous lengths to create a deep shaft in the ground on a small island off the coast of Nova Scotia, lined it with imported materials, sealed it with a sophisticated hydraulic flood trap, and apparently intended it never to be opened again. 6 people have died trying to open it. Millions of dollars have been spent in 19th century currency, in 20th century machinery costs, and in 21st century television production budgets. Every technology available to each generation has been brought to bear on this island. The pit has flooded every major excavation attempt. No confirmed treasure has been recovered. No definitive identification of the original builders has been made. The parchment fragments, the gold chain links, the coconut fiber, each suggests that something significant was placed here intentionally. But what it was, who placed it, and whether it is still there after 229 years of water, drilling, and collapse, no one can say with certainty. The island has taken 6 lives. It has not given up a single verified answer in return. Oak Island had spent 2¼ centuries refusing to reveal what lay at the bottom of a man-made pit. The mystery was old, the ground was patient, and the answers were always just 1 more meter away. The final case in this group took place in 2017. It was not old. It was not
patient. And when the answer finally came, it came from 907 meters down.
November 15, 2017. The South Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Patagonia. The Argentine Navy submarine ARA San Juan was returning to its home port of Mar del Plata after a routine patrol mission near Ushuaia, the most southernmost city in the world. It was a diesel-electric submarine, launched in 1983. It carried a crew of 44 men and women.
The San Juan was one of 3 submarines in the Argentine Navy's fleet. It was not a new vessel. It had been in service for 34 years. But it had undergone a midlife refit in 2014, which was supposed to extend its operational life by another decade.
The patrol it was returning from had been uneventful. The route home from Ushuaia north along the Argentine coast to Mar del Plata was a distance of roughly 2,500 kilometers. The crew had done this before. The submarine had done this before.
On November 15th, the San Juan sent its last communication to the Argentine Navy.
It reported a malfunction. It would not be heard from again.
The last confirmed communication from the ARA San Juan described a specific technical problem.
Water had entered the submarine's snorkel, the tube used to draw in outside air while the submarine runs submerged at shallow depth. That water had reached the battery compartment.
In a diesel-electric submarine, the batteries are the backup power source and the primary propulsion when running silent. They are also, under the right conditions, a serious fire and explosion hazard.
The water contact had caused a short circuit in the battery bank. The crew had detected the problem. They had reported it through standard channels. The Argentine Navy acknowledged the report.
The San Juan was told to continue toward Mar del Plata.
The submarine acknowledged the order.
That was the last anyone heard from it.
At 10:31 a.m. local time on November 15, 2017, seismic monitoring stations across the southern hemisphere registered an event consistent with a non-nuclear underwater explosion in the South Atlantic. The CTBTO, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, which operates a global network of hydroacoustic sensors, recorded the signal. No one told the families for 2 weeks. The Argentine Navy initially classified the San Juan as missing, not lost. They began a search operation in the South Atlantic, coordinating with the United States, Brazil, Chile, the United Kingdom, and several other nations.
At its peak, the search involved more than 30 ships, 9 aircraft, and the participation of over a dozen navies.
It was one of the largest submarine search operations in history.
But it was searching the wrong area.
The Argentine Navy's initial search zone was based on the submarine's reported position and its estimated course after the last communication. Those estimates turned out to be incorrect. The CTBTO's hydroacoustic data, the data that had recorded the explosion on November 15th, was available from the moment the event occurred. That data pointed to a specific location in the South Atlantic. It took days for that information to be fully communicated and incorporated into the search parameters. By then, the search had already consumed its most critical early window. A submarine crew can survive for up to 96 hours on emergency reserves if the vessel remains intact. The San Juan was not intact. It had already imploded. But no one searching for it knew that yet. The official search was suspended in late November 2017.
approximately 2 weeks after the San Juan disappeared.
The Argentine government announced that the chances of finding survivors were 0.
For the 44 families of the crew, that announcement was not an answer. It was a statement that the search had been given up.
The Argentine Navy maintained that the submarine was lost, but that its location was unknown.
Families organized. They lobbied the government. They demanded that the search continue.
They alleged, publicly and repeatedly, that the Argentine Navy had known the San Juan was in poor mechanical condition before the fatal patrol, that maintenance requests had been ignored, that the submarine should never have sailed in the condition it was in. Argentine federal courts opened investigations into whether officials had withheld information or covered up the vessel's known deficiencies. For 1 year, the San Juan's location remained unknown. Then, in November 2018, exactly 1 year after the submarine's disappearance, the private search company Ocean Infinity found it.
The San Juan was resting at a depth of 907 meters, approximately 430 kilometers from the Argentine coast.
It had not drifted far. The search had simply looked in the wrong place. When Ocean Infinity's remotely operated vehicles reached the wreck of the ARA San Juan, the images they sent back documented what the CTBTO sensors had already suggested. The submarine had experienced a catastrophic implosion. At 907 meters of depth, the water pressure is approximately 90 atmospheres, 90 times the pressure at the surface. A hull breach at that depth does not result in gradual flooding. It results in the near instantaneous collapse of the pressure vessel. The implosion would have been over in milliseconds. The crew of 44 would have had no time to react, no time to feel pain, no time to understand what was happening. The hull was crushed inward. The internal structure of the submarine was destroyed. Argentina announced that no recovery operation would be conducted. The site was designated as a war grave. The wreck remains on the seafloor today. The CTBTO's hydroacoustic network had detected the implosion at 10:31 a.m. on November 15, 2017, the precise moment of destruction. The implosion signal had been transmitted around the world at the speed of sound through water. It had been recorded within seconds. It took a year to find the submarine. The families of the 44 crew members have never accepted the Argentine government's account of what happened. They point to testimony from former crew members who served on the San Juan before the fatal patrol, testimony describing persistent mechanical problems, deferred maintenance, and a battery system that had been known to be in questionable condition. The 2014 refit, supposed to have extended the submarine's operational life, had involved replacing half of the battery cells with older, refurbished cells. Some former crew reported that those batteries had already shown signs of malfunction before November 2017.
The Argentine government acknowledged that the submarine's battery system had shown problems. They maintained that those problems had been addressed. But the last message from the San Juan described a short circuit in the battery bank caused by water intrusion through the snorkel. That was the exact system that had been the subject of ongoing concern. Argentine federal investigations are ongoing. No criminal convictions have resulted from those investigations as of the time of this episode. The cause of the hull's failure, whether the initial battery short circuit led directly to the implosion,
or whether structural weakness in the hull contributed, has not been definitively established.
44 crew members.
A 1-year search.
An implosion that was recorded in real time by sensors around the world. And a submarine that was found 430 kilometers from home on the seafloor, having never made it back. No one has been held accountable. The question of why the San Juan was sent out in its condition has not been officially answered. 4 cases, 4 different kinds of silence.
The Devil's Sea swallowed a research vessel, 31 scientists and crew sent specifically to study why ships disappear in that region. The Japanese government drew a boundary around their absence and called it a danger zone. The Kayo Maru No. 5 has never been located.
The Connemara IV was found floating in the Bermuda Triangle, with its sails neatly furled and no one aboard. Investigators couldn't establish with certainty how many people had been on it, who owned it, or where it was going. The life raft was missing. Nothing else was.
Oak Island has consumed 229 years, 6 lives and fortunes in machinery and television budgets. Someone built a hydraulic flood trap 60 meters underground on a small Nova Scotia island and lined it with coconut fiber from the tropics. What they put there, if they put anything there, has not been confirmed.
And the ARA San Juan imploded at 907 meters on November 15, 2017, at 10:31 in the morning. The exact moment was recorded by sensors around the world within seconds. It took a year to find the submarine. 44 crew members are on the seafloor today. No one has been charged.
The Devil's Sea offers natural explanations that don't fully hold. The Connemara 4 offers no explanations at all. Oak Island offers 2 centuries of clues that have never resolved into proof. The San Juan offers a precise timestamp for a catastrophe that accountability has somehow failed to follow.
The implosion was recorded in real time. The answers are still missing.